take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking On Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing, man?
I am good. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm pretty good. It was a pretty good Sunday here in Birmingham. Not too hot. Decent little breeze. How's it out there?
It was very nice, very cool, good weather. Feels like maybe you get to that fall part, but you never know if it'll be one last little kick of heat or not.
Yeah,
This end of the week was pretty nice.
yeah. I feel looking at the weather. It's actually kind of mild for a Alabama August this
Yeah,
upcoming week.
saw
Like
that.
we're only getting highs around 90 and stuff. So
Not terrible.
I'm sure about like middle of September we'll get that last
Last little
blast
kick.
of yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always say too, the hottest game that I remember going to at Alabama was our freshman year when we played Georgia, and that was the first weekend of
Yes,
October. Hmm
it was blazing.
hmm
It must have been like 95. It had to
I
been. It
mean,
was
it
so
was
hot that
hot
day.
as hell, and like I said, it was
Yeah.
October. Now, I will say personally, the whiskey that I was
Right.
drinking with the dude next to me, I didn't even know this dude. He was just some random sat next to me
Nice.
and had a little flask in, and he kept going, "Come on, man, you got to drink. Somebody's got to drink with me. My girl ain't gonna drink with me, and get you a Pepsi. Get you a Pepsi." And I ended up getting one. When I walked back to my seat with it, he didn't even like hesitate. Already took his little mini out, his flask, poured it in there for me. He's like, "Here you go, brother."
Man,
Uh,
that's awesome.
Also,
Yeah,
one
that
of the
was
loud.
definitely a hot one.
It was hot.
Super loud.
Um,
Was that the game?
those were
That was the
Pepra
game where
Charlie.
Pepper got it, and then they got there was what's it the holding call or a false start, so they got the ball back.
Charlie Pepper, yeah, he got the go ahead pick six, which was one of like maybe the loudest like pop I'd ever heard at Bryant Denny. Like
Yeah.
single moment, I think, at least in our time there. It was either that or maybe Javi's punt return against LSU in '07.
Hmm.
Um, but and then that Florida game in '05 was like the
Yeah.
loudest
All
continuous
day,
game. Yeah.
all day.
But that
Yeah.
when Charlie took that pick six back against Georgia, we took the lead, and then I forget how they came back because that would have been what Daniel Green, DJ Shockley era Georgia.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Because if I thought that Charlie Pepper thing got called back because
No.
it was
It
either
counted. Yeah.
that counted okay. Because I thought it was somewhere penalty in that game where they got
Maybe it was like on the ensuing drive. Maybe we got like a
yeah.
turnover, and then I just honestly can't remember how. I just remember they came
Yeah,
back and
yeah,
won the game. Um,
close one.
yeah, but
Because
yeah,
our
some memories.
freshman year, that Alabama team was really a talent,
Yeah,
a
they were
very
a solid.
very underrated team. I mean,
Yeah, if they hadn't
you
been on
know,
probation, I think they
yeah,
would have won the SEC West and gone to the
yeah,
title game. Instead, it ended
right.
up being like Arkansas or
Because I
somebody.
mean, right. Because our losses that year were at Georgia, with OU,
Georgia, OU, and Auburn, the Iron
Auburn.
Bowl, where Trey Smith ran all over us. And
Yeah,
that's when it was kind of apparent. You're like, wait a minute, something might be up here with Franchione.
yeah.
And
And then he left. Yeah,
yeah, we did. I think we did go to Hawaii and kind of barely won that the next week.
right.
And
Because they
then
kind
we
of went there
left.
with, yeah.
Yeah.
We couldn't go to any bowl games, so they went to Wales for
Yeah, they played
the
Hawaii in
hell of it.
'02 and then
Yeah,
'03. And '03 is when they lost to them.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Hmm.
that's a good topic to start on because we're going to start our college football previews this week. Uh, this week we'll be talking about kind of some stuff we've kind of already covered, but conference realignment and the expansion to the 12-team playoff.
Hmm.
So let's just go ahead and start there with conference realignment, and we talked about it. We did that episode on it last, when all the news of the team switching and all that
Right.
broke. We had that two-parter episode, but Now I guess we can talk a little bit more how it'll actually affect on field stuff. Let's start with the new Big Ten. Of course, they added Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA from the
Hmm.
Pac-12. So it truly makes the Big Ten a coast-to-coast conference, all the way from
Right.
New Brunswick, New Jersey,
All the way to
uh,
LA,
all the way to
Seattle,
LA, yeah, and Seattle, and
Seattle and Eugene.
crazy.
Yeah.
But we can talk about the off the field and that kind of stuff. We've kind of already covered that. We can cover another time, but on
Hmm.
the field stuff. So, a couple questions. Do you think the new teams do they really make it as they are? Do they make it a more difficult conference to win for teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, or do the new teams just push that middle and lower tier down further? Um,
Well, as of right now, I mean, coming right away, I think Oregon is a definite threat to win the Big Ten. I mean, they come in a very talented team. I mean, Dan Lanning is, the Ducks going in the right direction. I mean, very well could have been a playoff team if they beat Washington one time last year. They're probably in the playoff. I mean, so they're right there on the verge of being, a playoff team last year in the four. Um, I mean, they get Dylan Gabriel in as the new quarterback, replacing Bo Nix. I mean, that's a hell of a replacement. So I mean, that Oregon team, I mean, I think coming in, they're definitely in the best position for to be a top contender in the Big Ten this year at least.
mhm. uh, no, yeah, I think I agree with that assessment.
Long term, it's hard to say long term how it plays out. I think the biggest thing with the new Big Ten, of course, with getting rid of divisions, it hurts the teams like Wisconsin, Iowa that benefited from the Big Ten West and
Mhm.
winning that and getting to the Big Ten title game and getting some decent bowl games and even some BCS appearances because of that. That I think that pushes them down a little bit. Um, and and I don't think I think that's gonna possibly hurt those type of teams because they lived off the Big Ten West title and things of that nature that aren't gonna be existing anymore.
Yeah,
Um, but,
I think I agree. Um, I think as they are now, if sorry, if we're talking like 2000s USC, then obviously you're
mhm,
like, yeah, they come right in and they're a contender every year.
right.
Um,
And I mean they haven't been
UCLA's had a couple
consistent.
stretches.
Right.
Oregon,
No
obviously, they're at the top of the
consistency.
game. No, yeah. And then Washington's, hard to tell without, losing Kalen DeBoer. We got to see
Yeah.
how the
And
new regime there carries it
I think they
over.
got it. I think they got a good coach, the dude from with
Hmm.
Arizona.
Yeah.
But
Um,
I mean, you know, I thought with the man, I thought it was kind of interesting though that all the stars from Arizona didn't go with their coach to Washington. They actually stayed in Arizona.
hmm
Medical. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if
Yeah.
they just had a deep connection with Arizona, you know, which is kind of different for today's athlete, or if there was any beef, or but a lot of the time you see these your top guys following their coach, and they all stayed at Arizona, which is good for the Wildcats and their transition to the Big 12. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And then also, Will Rogers out there at Washington now, I believe. So, of course, the former Mississippi State quarterback. So that'll be interesting to see if he gets back to what he was before, uh, when Mike Leach was alive. He had
Yeah.
a very effective air raid offense. Kind of fell off last year as they changed game plan of Mississippi State, and that really kind of changed their whole. He kind of fell off, wasn't near what he was. I mean, he got hurt there at the end. So, be interesting to see what he does in the new system in the far 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 west. They're very different. I mean, he's from Mississippi, so I mean that's a big change of scenery for him.
Yeah, for real. Um, no, I think, yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. I think as of they are right now, I think Ohio State's not bothered by any of those teams. Obviously,
No.
USC and Oregon have the talent to beat them. USC needs to find a defense.
Right.
Oregon just kind of, how do they do without Bo Nix? They got Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
transferring in, so we'll see how he takes over. But by all accounts, Dan Lannon has got that program headed toward being a perennial
Right.
national title
And he's
contender. Really,
recruiting
yeah.
well. I mean, they have plenty of NIL money with Nike. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. They're never going to hurt for cash there.
yeah. So,
Yeah, got a great coach, Dan Lanning, who, depending on who you talk to, so a lot of folks believe he was actually Alabama, and Greg Burns' number one choice, even though despite they said it was DeBoer. But great coach. I think they probably,
yeah.
as of right now, have the best outlook. That was my other question that kind of, which of the new teams does the best, who does the worst. I think we probably would have the same answer. Oregon's probably going to do the best this season, and UCLA is probably going to do the worst.
Just because, I mean, there are so many changes. I mean, first time ever head coach, and I mean, of course, alumni. I mean, well renowned, Bruin.
Yeah, Deshaun Foster. Yeah, right. Yeah. Great running back in
Kind
his
of
day.
bombed.
Yeah.
Bombed the initial interview at the Big Ten media days. Kind of brutal. But I think going back home to your school. I mean, that's a tough thing. Works out for some, but a lot more times than not, it doesn't work out as friendly as people might think it might. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. But just with him being a first time as a head coach and starting off with a big program and a big conference. I mean, it's different than building your way up and learning at the in the Conference USA or something smaller, building up to a Power Five or Power now with the Power Four conference. But just starting off there, I mean that's big time. Even at not as big a program in UCLA, it's still
Yeah.
a big jump from not being a head coach at all to that. So it'll be interesting.
It's definitely it's going to be interesting to see. It's still, I think, pretty obviously Ohio State's conference to lose, but who knows? Maybe Oregon comes in and really surprises people.
Right.
In terms of scheduling, I think Ohio State, has pretty easy schedule. You look at just running through it real quick. They have Akron, Western Michigan, a bye, then Marshall on the road for Michigan State, Iowa at home, on the road at Oregon. There's the big one, October 12th in Eugene, Ohio State at Oregon. Then they have Nebraska at Penn State, so another tough road one. Purdue at Northwestern Indiana, and then Michigan the finish. So that's two really tough road games on their schedule, and they'll probably be favored in most, if not all, of these games. Michigan obviously probably takes a step back this year after losing just so much.
Right.
Oregon's schedule, on the other hand, if we compare that, they have Idaho, Boise State, then a weird timing, but Civil War in Corvallis and September 14th. Yeah. So we'll see if that, early season, if that makes a difference or if they're just too talented for them. Then they bye, then they go at UCLA, and then a Michigan State, Ohio State, at Purdue, Illinois, at Michigan, Maryland, at Wisconsin, bye, and then they end with Washington at home. So I definitely think that's a tougher schedule, but they're a talented team, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a rematch of that, September or October 12th game in the title game.
Yeah, because honestly, you look at both of their schedules. I mean, if there's a loss that I see for Ohio State, I mean, it was in Eugene. I mean, that's definitely their toughest game. Of course, they go to Happy Valley, but until Penn State actually beats Michigan, I'm not going to fall for the okie doke this year. I know I picked Penn State last year. I'm not going to fall for it again. Until James Franklin beats somebody that's they're not supposed to necessarily beat, I'm not falling for the okie doke. Until they beat Michigan. Luckily, Penn State gets away from and they're the team that probably benefits the most from those divisions because they don't have to play both
absolutely.
Michigan and Ohio State every year. Now they play Ohio State, but it is in Happy Valley. But yeah, they're one of those teams until they actually do it. I don't have faith in Penn State until they actually do it. I mean that. So that's of course another team that
No.
very well could be a playoff contender. Just because I mean they're always good for 10-2. You
Yeah.
know, so but
And Penn State schedule, yeah, you looking at it, it's at West Virginia. That'll be an interesting one.
yeah,
Bowling Green, Kent State,
yeah,
Illinois, UCLA, at USC, a bye, at Wisconsin, Ohio
mm-hmm,
State, Washington. So that's their stretch right there. It's
right,
from October 12th to November 2nd. They go at USC,
yeah,
by at Wisconsin, Ohio State, and then Washington.
right,
So that's two tough road games, and then two really good teams coming into your house. So
yeah,
I think everything, like you said, it depends on, can James Franklin discover whatever he needs to discover to put him over his
right.
the hump there. It'll be his 11th season there.
I mean, they've had good seasons. I mean, they
Oh,
never had a
one of the
bad
yeah,
year. I mean, he's definitely wins
that's
the games he's supposed to win. It's just he
mhm.
can't get over that Michigan Ohio State hump.
Yeah. The
I
only
mean, even
losing
when he,
season he's had there is the COVID year. Was a strange, that four
yeah,
and five year, and even then though
right,
they started 0-5 and then won their last four
mm-hmm,
games.
right,
Including that's the last time they beat either Michigan or
mm-hmm,
Ohio State. Um,
right,
but they're not a stranger to beating good teams. Beat the hell out of Iowa last year.
yeah. I
Went on the
mean,
road and beat Auburn 2 seasons ago. When Auburn
yeah,
was a ranked team. So
yeah.
there it depends on if like the
I
James
mean, they're
Franklin thing, and
great,
then if Drew Aller takes that next step as a
right?
quarterback too, because he
Yeah,
does have talent and potential to really
yeah.
change the
I
game
mean,
for
but he
them.
was a freshman last year, so I mean, he had lot on his shoulders coming in there. They would have got a new offensive coordinator because at times that offense was pitiful last year. I mean, when you look at that Michigan game and they couldn't move the ball for a reason.
Yeah, it was rough.
I mean, even the Ohio State game, I mean, they couldn't really move the ball.
Who is their offense coordinator? They got Andy Kotelnicki, who was
From
in
I believe from Kansas, if I'm
Kansas.
not
Yeah, Kansas
mistaken.
and Buffalo
Yeah,
before that. So
I mean, he had Kansas rolling, so I
I
mean,
know. Yeah, hey man, anybody
okay.
that can get Kansas with anything close to a heartbeat, you got to pay attention to.
Right.
So yeah,
So,
but I think it'll be obviously a deeper conference this year, but probably same old
hmm
story. It's Ohio State. I think maybe Oregon. I think both of us probably thinking Oregon takes Michigan's place as the
yeah, at
foil
least this
to
year.
at least this year. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you
Um,
very well could have both of those teams. Of course, it's a
mhm.
12-team playoff. I'd be shocked if at least both of those teams aren't in the playoff for
Mhm.
sure. And then from there we'll
Uh,
see. But
yeah, and speaking of Michigan, just real quick too, their schedule it's tough too. So it's not only a big change in coaching and personnel this year because they have so many people,
some,
new people.
yeah,
But their schedule: Fresno State, Texas. It would be a great
mm,
out of conference game.
yeah,
September
have
7th.
to be. Yeah, at least
Yeah,
it's at home
Art.
for them. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a talented
Oh,
Texas
well,
team.
in true
So
Michigan fashion, they don't even have to leave home until October.
right,
Uh, Fresno State, Texas, Arkansas State, USC, Minnesota. Then they go at Washington, at Illinois, Michigan State, Oregon, at Indiana, Northwestern, and at
mm,
Ohio State to end the year. And then we can't stop talking about the Big Ten without mentioning everybody's favorite offense, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Uh,
mm,
of course, Brian Ferentz is gone. Um,
yeah. Got the
he
went to transfer from Michigan as a new quarterback.
Yeah, Cade McNamara.
Dave McNamara. Who is
Who
I forget who
I
is the
think I
offensive
saw.
coordinator?
It is they hired the guy from, I believe he was the
Tim
head
Leslie.
coach. Yeah, he was head coach at Western Michigan
Right.
um, until 2022. So yeah, in Iowa, they love to play spoiler. They love to, every now and again they'll
I mean, they
kick it.
always have an epic defense. I mean, if they could get
Hmm.
any type of offense, I mean,
Hmm.
that's their thing. I mean, I mean, the defense is so good in the past couple of years. I mean, they've held teams, even good teams, for
Mhm.
3 quarters. But I mean, they get tired eventually. You
Yeah,
only
and
have so many three and outs and
it's not
on the
a
offensive end.
it's not a terribly hard schedule for them either. They avoid Oregon, they avoid
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, they avoid Michigan in their schedule. Illinois State, Iowa State, Troy, at Minnesota, at Ohio State. There's obviously the big one,
Yeah.
and then they follow that up with a home game versus Washington. So there's your two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's their stretch, and then they have at Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, at UCLA, at Maryland, and Nebraska to close it out.
All right.
So
I mean, that's
you
not a
know,
terribly
if they
tough
could,
schedule, but
they're
I
like
mean, you look.
the exact opposite of USC though. All they need, if they
Yeah,
get anything that resembles a competent offense,
a
if that
pulse of an
defense is
offense.
up to the
Yeah,
standard, they
they
can mess
could. They
around and
could.
find themselves in the Big Ten title game. You know.
Yeah, very much so. I mean,
Um,
you'd have to think. I mean, Illinois State, obviously, if you think they win, Iowa State,
mhm,
they've kind of fallen off a little bit since they had all those a couple years ago when they're super talented. Yeah, I
mhm.
mean, Troy at Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota. I mean, we don't. I mean, I don't know. They were bad last year, but still have a good coach. And Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, PJ Fleck is a good coach, but I mean, Minnesota just hasn't been as good. I mean, I don't think they lived up to expectation when they brought him in as the head coach because when he was at, I think, Western Michigan and had them going with the roll the boat stuff and came over and
Mhm.
Minnesota just hasn't been as good as what people thought there. But and of course, yeah. I mean, really, the only game that you say, man, they don't have that I don't see them having a chance in, honestly, is at Ohio State. I mean, I just don't see that. I mean,
No.
other than that, I mean, there's not necessarily a game on the schedule where you say the Hawkeyes couldn't win.
No, yeah, yeah. With that, again, if their defense plays like their defense can, that's a team that
No,
um, can win.
I
Real quick
mean,
before
there's
we move on from the Big Ten, just running down USC schedule. I think even as talented as they can be, of course, no Caleb Williams. Miller Moss
yeah.
steps in.
He had a
He's a
good
junior.
bowl game.
Yeah, did have, and they got plenty of talent still. Zachariah
Right.
Branch is still on that team. He's
Yeah.
your
They got a
Mister
lot
Do
of talent.
Everything. Oh,
Right.
of course.
A
They
lot
just
of
like we
talent.
said, they're
And they
the
didn't
opposite of
have they
Iowa.
didn't
They
have a
need the
defense.
defense. Yeah, they just need the
But I
defense to
mean,
do
they get
anything.
that test right out the gate in Las Vegas against LSU.
Hmm. And yeah, it's not an easy schedule. LSU, you mentioned that's a neutral one, and then they get Utah State at home. And then they
And
go
then
at
at Michigan.
Michigan. Yep, at Michigan, Wisconsin, at Minnesota, Penn State, at Maryland, Rutgers, at Washington, Nebraska, at UCLA, and then Notre Dame to end the year. Man, that's a tough road schedule
Oof,
because
it
all of
is.
those road
It
games
is.
are, you got Minnesota, tricky team, like you mentioned, well coached team, really well coached team.
Yeah.
At Maryland, there are Big Ten darlings. They always, Loxley up there.
I'm
He's
not
gonna.
I'm not gonna fall for that this year.
Yeah, I'm not falling for
We
this
were
year.
we were all in last year.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
we were
we're no,
all in last year and it
no,
kind
no,
of
no more Talia Tungavailoa
yeah,
over there.
Tagovailoa. It wasn't
But
nearly as great as what I thought it was gonna be, but
no, but then at
they're
Washington,
still
obviously a tough
tricky at home.
place. Yeah, and then
Yeah, I
at
mean,
UCLA in a rivalry game.
yeah,
Who
and of
UCLA beat them
course,
last year, so
yeah, and
um,
of course, at the rivalry game at the end of the year against Notre Dame.
yeah,
And
I
at
know.
that point, I mean, what does Notre Dame? I mean, Notre Dame is expected to have a heck of a year. So I mean,
Mm,
if USC is better than what people might think, and then if Notre Dame goes into that, I mean, that could be definite playoff implications. Of course, we have a
mhm.
long way till then, but I mean, that's a interesting end of the schedule because usually it's towards the end, but it's not usually the last game of the season. So that's an interesting placement.
Well, it's
For the
always it's a weird.
usually
They
in the
have
middle.
it's a weird. It's always been it's so when they are in South Bend, it's a middle of the season thing, but when
When it's
they
always
host them, it's
LA.
at the end of the
Yeah.
season thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird. Now, granted, though,
Yeah.
last year I'm pretty sure that they did the same thing. I think they hosted Notre
They
Dame,
hosted, didn't they? But it wasn't at the end of the year.
but it was in the middle of
It
the year, and
was,
then they
and
finished at
Notre Dame.
UCLA, so they're gonna
Yeah. switch
do the
that.
same thing. That's kind of weird that
Weird.
they're gonna. Um,
Yeah. But they got housed. That was the game where I was like,
yeah, I think
wow.
these
It was
might be
weird because
actually. I'm gonna look that up. I think what the thing I have I'm reading is actually wrong. Let me see. UCSC 23 football schedule.
I swear it was it. I swear it was it. What's the name? I could have swore it was at
It was in USC or yeah, no.
let's
What
see,
I'm looking at right now,
2023.
I got the Phil Steele guide. It says it was the same as this year, but it
So
was no. Yeah,
2023.
he's got it wrong. They were in South Bend last year and then hosted UCLA.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, it
why.
was at. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was.
So they're back to
Yeah,
their
but they
traditional. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, but they housed. They absolutely housed.
Oh,
uh,
Notre Dame whooped them last year.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, they just dominated them in all facets,
and
which
then
was shocking because you would think.
mhm.
Because I think a lot of people thought, man, I mean, Notre Dame could win that game, but just with how that offense is,
Mhm.
and it was crazy too because Notre Dame has come off that ugly loss against Louisville the week
Mhm.
before, and then they just
Yeah,
housed
yeah. Notre Dame
USC.
was just
But
a weird team last year.
yeah, they were. They really were.
But
'Cause, I mean,
yeah, I think
yeah.
that's
Well,
probably good.
I real
Yeah.
real quick. I know that we're gonna have our predictions and everything later on, but would like to say, point it out now, and this might be my sleeper for the Big Ten to keep track of: the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Oh, all right. Don't say anymore. Hold it down. We'll get there in a preview episode. But interesting. I like it.
But I just because if you look at their schedule is cake compared to what most. So yeah, but them and I like
Mm-hmm.
the direction Nebraska's going.
Hmm.
Just with
Oh,
their
yeah.
quarterback with Dylan Raiola coming in.
That is
I
dangerous
like
to
the way they're
have any
headed.
faith in Nebraska. But
It is, but I like their coach. If you look at his history in second years of programs,
hmm.
he's been money. At Baylor, he was money. Before that, at what was he? Before Temple, second year money. I mean, he got a quarterback in Dylan Raiola, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Able to get him to leave Georgia, come home, follow his uncle to Nebraska there. But those are two teams that I'm kind of high on. Rutgers, just because I think Shiano's a hell of a coach, and
He
has
is.
one of his more talented teams. Um, yeah, so those are two.
All right.
May not necessarily win, but if you look at what their schedule is and what they have around them, I think that they might make some noise in their new Big Ten.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. We will come back to that. Yeah, we'll do a preview episode or a prediction episode.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the other one of the other conferences really affected by realignment, the Big 12. Um,
Yeah.
of course, they added. Hell, I'm gonna have to look it up. There's so many people, but they added Arizona, Arizona State, Utah
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
Pac-12,
And Colorado comes back.
and Colorado comes back. That's the one I'm missing. Of course, Texas and Oklahoma are now
Wow.
in the SEC. And then there's all the newcomers from last year. BYU, UCF,
Which is still
Cincinnati.
weird.
It's
Which is
still
still
weird.
weird.
Yeah, it's still weird.
When you think,
Yeah,
like last year when it was like BYU versus West Virginia, like shit, that's a damn Big 12 game.
yeah, that's a weird one. Yeah, so they
It's a
now
conference game.
stretch. They got Colorado back in the fold. They got Utah, so they now stretch
I
from all the
mean,
way
they're
from Salt Lake City
close.
to Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, they're close to wall to wall. I mean, yeah, you go to, Utah to, yeah, that's,
Yeah, so Orlando,
interesting.
yeah, will be your furthest east, I would assume. Maybe
Right.
West Virginia, but
Yeah.
yeah. So is my question for Utah? I had a question for each conference. Is the Big 12 now the deepest conference, top to bottom, in terms of competitiveness? They don't have any of the big, heavy blue chippers, blue bloods of the sport anymore. Um,
Yeah.
but they do,
Well,
that's,
yeah.
you're looking at the
I,
teams that are predicted to finish toward the bottom of the conference. Team like Houston, Arizona State, BYU.
yeah.
Those are teams that can, on a good day, beat anybody. They're still
Right.
sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, like you said, there's no super heavyweights anymore. Yeah, I mean, but any week, I mean, you wouldn't be shocked to see anybody beat anybody in this conference. So probably right there. I mean, any week, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind. I don't know. I think
I
they're going
think.
to kind of turn into what the Big Ten West kind of has been. Any week,
Mhm.
anything can happen. Nothing
Yeah.
really shocks you because,
I was going to say, I think that's going to make this a conference worth watching every weekend, is because there's
yeah,
just going to be so many competitive games, because there's
right,
no, granted, we say this, and, a team like Utah, a team like Kansas State, those well coached teams that are always
right. I
solid
mean, they could
teams.
easily. Kansas is a well-coached team with Lance
Hmm.
Leopold or whatever his name is. I mean,
Yeah,
they
Lance
return a lot
Leopold,
of good stuff.
Oklahoma
Yeah, but I
State,
mean,
and, Mike Gundy's been there forever. You never know those
right,
teams. If Iowa
you
State
know,
gets back on track.
TCU gets back on track. But
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, there's. I mean, I would assume that most people probably think Utah coming in is probably their favorite, but I mean, it's just very wide open, I would say. And then, I mean, you look at the new people. I mean, Arizona State probably going to struggle a little bit. I mean, they've had a lot of change, transition, weird stuff happened there. You know,
Hmm.
Arizona is a team to watch out for just because what they're returning. I mean, new coach
Hmm.
there, but I mean, they're just returning so much talent. Um,
Yeah. But a good new coach. Brent Brennan, previously at San Jose State, and made
yeah,
them into a frisky team.
right.
Like you said, a lot of talent. Noah Fafita, sensational freshman last year at quarterback for the
Yeah.
Wildcats, and he
They
stayed.
got
Like I
the
said, there's some rumors
they
that
got
he
the
was going to
wide
follow. Yeah.
right. And they got the wide receiver there, McMillan. I'm not even going to try to do the first name. He was a
Ooh, yeah,
1,400-yard receiver last year.
no, that's a very
Um,
talented team, a very good
he's coming
offense.
back. So I mean, that's just
And there's some interesting new matchups too. I think bringing in that quartet from the Pac-12, like we said, Utah, Arizona State, and Colorado
yeah,
coming back home, so to say.
right,
Adding into, now Utah, BYU, Holy War is going to be a conference game. I think that'll be
right.
really
That's
cool.
interesting. Yeah,
We get Colorado, some old rivalries with like Kansas State, Kansas
right.
back in the fold.
And they're, I mean, and they're of course another team that's, of course, just gets a lot of pop because Dion and his kids and
Yeah.
you know everything with that.
Well,
And
that'll definitely be an interesting team to watch. I think we could probably safe to say of the newcomers, Utah probably fare the best this year.
yeah, I mean, I
Um,
would probably say so just because I mean they're
yeah,
so. I mean, Kyle Whittingham probably the most underrated, underappreciated coach. I mean,
absolutely, longest tenured
just
coach
I
outside
mean he's
of
been there since what Urban
Kirk
Meyer
Ferentz,
left.
right? Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
since
No,
Urban
he
Meyer
he
left, he's
he
been the
took over
coach at
for, yeah.
yeah,
He was one of his assistants. He got promoted.
yeah,
He had never been a head coach before that, and he's been there
just
since. This is now
killed
his
it.
20th, coming into his
Wow,
20th season,
wow,
and
amazing.
kind of a favorable schedule.
Yeah,
So yeah, I really like what Utah. And they're always, we talk about them. Now, what I think will be different is they're coming into the Big 12, where teams are a little bit tougher than they were out west in Pac-12. We
right,
like to talk about them. They were kind of unique in the Pac-12, and then they were kind of a team of bullies, a big, strong,
right.
beat you up
Physical
team,
team.
and yeah, physical team. And now they're coming into a conference, or still more known for its explosive offenses, but the
Right,
conference not afraid to get dirty.
exactly.
Um, so it'll be fun. Like some of those unique games. They don't have Kansas State on the schedule this year. Until maybe the conference title game, but
Right. I mean,
there's some good ones
except
coming down the
yeah.
line. Yeah.
I mean, of course, the Holy War game with BYU come back. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, enter that. at September 21st in Stillwater. That should be a good one.
Yeah. Um,
That'd be interesting. Next week
yeah. No.
versus Arizona.
Hmm.
I mean,
A
the
Friday
TCU
night
game.
game at Arizona State. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you never know. You never know with those Friday night games.
yeah, and a late season game
TCU.
at Colorado.
Yeah, and who knows what Colorado will be at that point.
And that'll be the week after. I think that's their last month. So they go. We mentioned that TCU game. Their
Hmm.
October they have a bye to start the month, and then they go at Arizona State, TCU at Houston. Then they get another bye, and then their last four is BYU at Colorado, Iowa State at UCF. Uh, that's a
No,
trappy last month
it
right
is.
there because you're coming off
That is a tough one. That is a
your
tough one.
your
Boy.
arch rival game and you go to a
Yeah,
Colorado team and who knows what they're going to look like. But they're
right.
talented enough that could be a real, if you're tired, you're emotionally drained from that rivalry game,
Hmm.
then
Yeah, who knows?
and then you got to go at Colorado, and then the next week you play Iowa State, and even though it's at home, they're another team that they're well coached. You never know what they're going to
Hmm.
bring, and
Exactly.
then you close the year on a Friday night at UCF, and only Gus Bus, and who the hell knows what's going to happen there,
And I mean, and you gotta think. I mean, I forgot about UCF and the fact that they got KJ Jefferson as their quarterback. And if
Hmm.
KJ with Gus as his coach, I mean, Gus loves mobile quarterback.
That could be, yeah, that could be.
Phew,
I think we might
that could be
revisit
a
that in
match.
our
Yeah,
prediction
that could be a
episode.
match.
But
Match made in heaven there.
absolutely, yeah, that could be scary. Let's move on from the Big 12, unless you have anything else.
No, I think we pretty much
All
covered
right.
it.
ACC, of course, another big conference.
Hmm.
Made noise this year in the offseason for almost more noise for who might leave. I mean,
Yeah,
Florida State suing
not
the
the right
conference, and
reasons.
yeah, not the
Not,
right reasons.
yeah.
So they added Stanford, Cal, and SMU, decidedly not Atlantic Coast teams.
Mm.
My question there is, do those additions do anything for you? Do they actually move the needle in terms of making the ACC a better conference, or is it just a desperate attempt to do something in the light of all the other conference moves?
Academically, they fit well. Sports wise, the likes of Clemson, Florida State, does it do anything for you? Probably not. Doesn't excite you. Doesn't make you want to be part of the ACC anymore. You want to obviously put a Florida State especially and Clemson's kind of jumped on that same bandwagon. Um, it doesn't do anything for you, I don't think. Um, and just it's not the sexiest of names. I think that now I will say SMU is headed in the right direction. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
that the money at SMU is interested again in football. They like where it's going. I think last year's a heck of a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they might have a heck of a year in the first year in the ACC. Just because I mean they're a talented team returning one of the better quarterbacks in America, underrated in Stone. Um, and I think they're going to make some noise in their first year. Long term, who knows? It's not as sexy. None of the names are sexy, but I think if anybody's going to make an appeal for the conference, or it's going to be SMU because I mean it opens up even more that Texas recruiting base. I mean, teams are going to go to Texas every year, so I mean you're gonna get your plant the flag in Texas. But I think that's probably the biggest. SMU is probably the sexiest just because of the recruiting aspect, and they might actually be a decent team um,
Mm-hmm.
if they keep going in that right direction. That looks like they're headed. But
No, yeah, absolutely. I've been saying for years now, and I've said it on this podcast that SMU was a team I really wanted to see get back to a power conference. Now, granted, they're in the wrong one because they definitely should be in the Big 12 with all those other Texas teams, all the old
yeah, yeah.
SWC teams. But what can you do?
Yeah, it's their first time since the SWC that they've been in
Mm-hmm.
the Power Conference. and they're thrilled to be there. I mean, they're so thrilled with it throwing away like a decade worth of them not even getting money,
Mhm.
just so they can be in a power conference. I mean, that's crazy. But the money at SMU is very excited. I've heard just from interviews and stuff, and I mean, I think that they're the most interesting team coming into it. Um, Cal. I mean, they have some. They've had their moments. Stanford's had their moments. I just don't know how consistently. You know, Stanford's kind of fallen on hard times since David Shaw left.
Yeah.
Cal,
Um,
I don't know. And of course, you have your normal. I mean, of course, it's we look at it every year. Is it Clemson or is it Florida State? I mean, that's kind of the where we're at. And Florida State appears to be back to uh, kind of what we expect Florida State to be after quite the drop off there.
mhm.
Mike Norvell seems to have them are finally where they look to be. Probably should, could, of course, a lot of people saw that they should have been a playoff team last year. Of course, if they did that this year, of course, that doesn't matter. They're in the playoffs with the
Yeah.
12 team. Of course, the big change this year is, you know, got DJU as the quarterback.
Mhm.
Guy that started off with Clemson, now back in the ACC again after a stop off at Oregon State. So that'll be
Yeah, they
interesting.
got a couple, and a couple Alabama guys too. Roy Dale
Yeah,
Williams at running back.
but
Um,
you got the cornerback.
they get,
I mean,
yeah, and
they've
they got
done well.
Malik
They do
Benson
well.
at
Yeah,
receiver.
Malik Benson. And Malik Benson, I mean, he didn't do anything. I mean, I thought he was going to be a stud at Alabama. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, didn't work out. But we'll see what he does at Florida State there. Um,
He's a talented guy. He's got all the speed in the world.
yeah.
But
So it'll be interesting. But
yeah,
Mike Norvell's done a hell of a job in the portal, especially. Um, I built a heck of a team from the portal last year. Seems to have done it again this year. So I would think they're very much a possible contender. And of course, see what Clemson does. Of course, they've still winning games, but it's just not to the level that they were 5 years ago. So I mean, people are seeing them as almost a failure. I mean, they're going 10-2, 9-3 type seasons. I mean, nothing terrible, just not what they had went down with what about a 4 or 5 year run where people
yeah,
where they were basically a title contender every year, and that just hasn't been the same. I mean, they're still a good team, but I think the biggest thing hurting them, of course, is the perception that they're not interested in the transfer portal, and
hmm
Dabo's not necessarily a big NIL proponent guy, so whether that has hurt them or not, I don't know. I think some of it too is just, I mean, he went from, I mean, honestly, two of the more elite quarterbacks. I mean, I mean, we had Watson, and then he went to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, two, I mean, program-changing quarterbacks, all-time guys, and kind of fell off a little bit at that position. Some coaches have left, and that's to kind of change some things. Maybe not nearly as good. So, but still very, very good team in Clemson, but they just not
hmm
as dominant as what they were for a couple years there.
No, yeah, but probably should be back toward the top of the ACC this
Right.
year. They do have to go to Tallahassee. Of course,
Hmm.
they have that big opening week game against Georgia and Atlanta.
Right.
And then, they do host them at least, but Appalachian State the week after Georgia, that's,
That's interesting.
yeah, very, yeah, exactly. But other
Depending
than
on how
that,
that
it's a
Georgia game
pretty
goes.
favorable schedule.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you. The original question, those additions don't really do anything for me. It's whoop
Hmm.
de doo. They're another one again. Years ago, I think they missed their shot to make meaningful additions, and everybody wants the big names. But if I think what people kind of forgot, like the TCU effect, where TCU was a mid-major forever, and they
Mm-hmm.
became Gary Patterson built them into a good program, a strong team that
Mm-hmm.
could compete with anybody, and then eventually the Big 12 snatched them up, and
Yeah.
they made a national title game. So
Yeah.
because they took a program that was already good, well run, and then they gave
Mm-hmm.
them more resources.
Yeah.
And so with that sense, I think years ago, the ACC should have gone after teams like UCF, even USF, just because of their location.
Right. I mean, and of course,
Yeah,
to be fair, I mean, Miami, well, I mean, at one point was a huge. I mean, well,
yeah,
if when they brought in Alexa, Virginia Tech,
yeah.
I mean, and they brought in Miami. I mean, at that point, it was like, man, those are power teams. They just
Hmm.
haven't. I mean, Virginia Tech's had moments, but I mean, they just haven't been the Virginia Tech that they once were. And they have, they're kind of falling on hard times. I mean, Miami, they're a team that, you know, we got Mario Cristobal as a coach now. Miami guy. I mean, I mean, of course, again, they're going to get the hype going into the season because, they did well. They've done well in recruiting. They bring in the quarterback from, I can't think of his name, from Washington State who went
Oh,
to
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward. I mean, gave Cam Ward. So, I mean, very talented quarterback. I mean, was great in the Incarnate Word. I mean, when he was healthy, I mean, he had Washington State flying high at the start of the year, kind of fell off at the end there. It was
Hmm.
a very talented team in Miami. It could have been a much different season if, if they had just downed the ball against Georgia Tech. I think they
Oh
kind
man,
of
nah.
threw off their season a little bit. But, I mean, they're getting
Yeah,
a lot of hype going into the season.
they
And, of
are,
course,
and that's it's scary,
and we know
considering
we
how
know
they've
how
been
that's been, for the last
recently.
10
Yeah.
years, anytime they say the U is back.
Hmm.
But
It's been a
we
rough.
saw that Texas finally got back, so maybe they're hoping that they can follow that path that Texas took. And of course, big game week 1. I mean, for both programs, Miami and
Hmm.
Florida. Phew,
Yeah.
if you want to get off any type of hot seat, you win that game. I mean, that does a lot for you. So,
Yeah. Yeah, a great rivalry that does not get played nearly enough.
right,
And for some very rivalry reasons too. That's
right.
just two schools that do
They
not
hate
like
each
each
other.
other.
Yeah.
I remember we witnessed that classic. Well, not witnessed. We watched it. That classic. Our
The
sophomore
big
year is
comeback.
the same day that we almost got number one Oklahoma. That until Bob
That was
Stoops pulled
a
out
that
that
was
fake
a
punt.
that was a Brock Berlin game, wasn't
Yeah, and then we came home disappointed from the Alabama
it?
game
Yeah.
and watched the finish of that Brock Berlin comeback.
Yeah.
Some Orange
Yeah.
Bowl magic.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I'm just saying, you can trace the trajectory, the downfall of Miami football to when they blew up the Orange Bowl and they started playing their games at Hard
Hmm.
Rock Stadium. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
That,
Yeah,
yeah. You might be right. I very well. Yeah. I don't know.
yeah. That Orange Bowl magic was different.
Yeah. Definitely was.
But yeah, I think that'll do it for those. The realignment portion. Of course, Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC. We've kind of
Yeah.
already covered that ad nauseum. Texas is a great team. Oklahoma's, struggled to past couple of years, but they're
I
another
mean, they were
great
good
program.
last year. I mean, they
Yeah,
went 10-2 last year. I mean, they're nothing to
yeah.
sneeze at. I mean, they beat it. And the funny thing is that I guess the biggest thing for that is, we're so caught up in the moment, and just based off last year, you see Texas as the big dog coming in. But I
Hmm.
mean, for the majority of that time of the Big 12, it was OU's conference. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
OU
no,
dominated the conference front to
absolutely, yeah.
back, outside of a couple of times. I mean, it was their conference. I mean, they were see like the Kansas, football. I mean, the way that they dominated the Big 12 and the Big 12 titles. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't think that they're getting near the respect. I mean, people are just looking about USF, and then Texas get all the hype coming in, but. And of course, some of it's just with the change of course, new quarterback there. But I mean, Jackson Arnold. I mean, it's a reason why why he's a guy now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, so
Well,
I think they have a very tough schedule coming into their schedule is very tough their first year compared to Texas. A much tougher schedule for the newcomer in OU. But I think that I think long term they'll be fine. I mean, it's just a matter of you know. And I think the big thing for both teams is we've seen them beat SEC teams at when in one game situations. But I think the big shocker is going to be every week you're playing. You go to Alabama,
yeah.
you go to Georgia the next week. You're going to Tennessee. You're going to Florida. I mean, you're not no disrespect, but I mean you're not going to Ames. You're not going
Mm-hmm.
to Manhattan, Kansas. I mean, solid programs at times, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just not the same. So I
No.
mean, you have to come every week, and you have to be ready to go. There's no, and just where the SEC's at right now. Of course, you have your bad programs at times, of course, but I mean, you got to be ready to go every week.
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
no there's no gimme games for real like
No.
times as
No, absolutely not. We'll cover that more next
so.
week too. We'll do our SEC Alabama review. So we'll get real in depth on that conference and
Mhm.
teams. But and then that's like I said, that's pretty much it for realignment. Let's go ahead and move to the
Mhm.
12-team playoff. Just so it's our first year of it. We know it'll some things that we can universally say it'll open up to more teams. For better and worse. For every team that maybe is like an Ole Miss, a team that is so good, but
Mhm.
loses to Georgia and Alabama, they get a shot to prove themselves against some other teams.
Exactly.
Get in there, and but then we'll probably get a stinker in there, or some 3 loss, maybe even a 4 loss team if they have the right pedigree that sneaks in the back end that everybody say like this is what we hate about the 12 team. And like any
Mhm.
format with any sport, there'll be pros and cons.
Exactly.
But are you excited about it? Are you okay, or would you rather have stayed at 4 or the bowl games or what?
I always thought 8 was the right way to go with it. But, but I think I think nationally it gives more appeal to the college game.
Mm-hmm.
Because after one week you're not done.
Mm-hmm.
You lose. I mean, of course, most teams are gonna lose one game every year. So I mean, but you lose one game, it doesn't put you to sleep. I mean, if you're an SEC team and you go 11-1, I mean, you go unless craziness happens, you're gonna get even if you don't make a championship game, you're in the playoff. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, let's be honest. You go, in the Big Ten, if you go 11-1, um, even if you don't make a championship game, you're in. I mean, and
Yeah.
that that's just so. I mean, it makes it a little easier. But I think that the most interesting thing was to be how do they break it down?
Yeah.
Of course, the SEC and the Big Big Ten are going to be the considered the heavyweight conferences, so they're going to more than likely get more teams from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see what they do when it comes to like let's say a let's say a two loss Alabama team that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't win the SEC. Compare that to like I don't know maybe 11-1 11-1 Kansas State. And, let's say if we're coming down to that, or even you have your two-loss team in both conferences, it'll be interesting just how that all factors into who makes the
Hmm.
playoff, who makes the playoff and who gets those final slots. I think that'll be interesting. Your non-champions, when they compare, schedules, when you're comparing like a 10-2 team or an 11-1 team compared to a 10-2 at large in both conferences, for Big 12 versus SEC, how they look at it. Because of course someone's going to get left out, and then people are going to bitch about it. But I think overall, just with the idea that one loss doesn't kill your dream. I think it's going to keep more teams interested, keep fan bases more interested, and kind of help, I guess, more of the national appeal for college football. That, of course, is big in
Hmm.
the South and the Midwest, but kind of dead in aspects of uh, the East Coast and the West Coast and a lot of places.
Yeah. Um, no, yeah, I tend to agree. I think overall it's good for the sport. The more teams, obviously it's more eyeballs on quote unquote meaningful games, and it
Hmm.
does create more meaningful games in the end of the regular season. Now, granted, there's going to
Right,
be some, a lot of the. I won't say conference championships become pointless
but they
because of
do,
it, but
but they
but
do.
kind of, yeah. They'll determine seeding, and obviously the four highest ranked conference champs all get a bye, so
Hmm.
there's that to play for. But yeah, if you have two unbeaten SEC teams playing a title game, they both know they're getting into the
Right, because that game really
playoff,
mattered.
or you're even a one loss team. Like last year, you
Hmm.
unbeaten Georgia and one loss Alabama. On Alabama wins, Georgia's not bothered; they're still in.
Right. Are
Now
you
if you
even
maybe if you
interested
get
in it?
like a two loss, say it's undefeated Georgia versus a two loss whoever, Alabama team, then maybe that creates some desperation on the two loss team's part to win.
Right.
But even then, it depends who those losses were. If we say it's Alabama, if your losses are Georgia, uh, say at Oklahoma, and then Georgia again in the title game, well, depending on how Oklahoma does,
Yeah.
that might still get you in. But so I
Right.
think, like you said, there's pros and cons to everything, but I think it'll make, it certainly adds a different element to those group of five teams that are looking
Yeah.
to get that because, the highest ranked group of five champion does get in.
We'll get in. Yeah.
Um, and in some years, they'll be able to maybe steal a bye if they can outrank, one of these other four conferences. I don't know if this year is that year, but who knows? Maybe
Hmm.
the ACC is down again, or maybe
Right.
the Big 12 eats itself, and
Yeah.
an unbeaten team like a Tulane or a Memphis or somebody.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you look at, I mean, Memphis is returning a lot of people, and I
Hmm.
think they're definitely a favorite. And even though that they lost their coach, Tulane has a very talented team. They did
Hmm.
well in the
It's a
transfer
solid
portal.
program. Yeah.
I mean, they did well. I mean, they brought the Alabama wide receiver. You got a guy from USC coming in. Your quarterback to transfer from Oregon. I mean, and they got a good coach. What they got the Troy coach, right? So
Yeah.
I mean,
Summerall.
who's Summerall, who did a heck of a job at Troy, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So
Hmm.
very interesting. Both those programs. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. I will say, though, and I've said it before, just to say it again, one thing I wish they would change already is make all the games on campus until the national title game.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
you know,
that'd
if
be
you're
great.
emulating the NFL, do that. I know the bowl games are part of tradition and all that, but
Hmm.
as I've written before, it's on the AlabamaTake.com. If you look for it, I think the bowl game should accept their fate as just window dressing now, and the big ones, the big four, big six, whatever, the New Year Six. I think they should all move to the beginning of the season, and they can host these really great opening season, opening
Hmm.
games when they can go back to their conference alignments and I know the Rose Bowl, they're going to play, they're going to win, and they want their New Year's 5 o'clock, sunset,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah over the mountains. But as it stands now, you're not special anymore. You're just a
Hmm.
site for a playoff game. That's the bigger
Yeah.
thing. I'm sure they're going to have the playoff logo on the field. In some years, you're going to be a quarterfinal. Some years you'll be a
Hmm.
semifinal, but you're not hosting a national title game. That just goes to whatever city bids the highest. So maybe some years, yeah, you know,
Right.
yeah, the same city that has, New Orleans might host a Sugar Bowl and a title game, but
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean that
it's
would be. I mean that would be great to get up until the national title game to get those. Because I mean, can you imagine like a national semifinal game in Tuscaloosa or
exactly.
Baton Rouge or
Well,
Columbus,
and
Ohio?
even
Or
so, it actually hurts. The top four teams, they get the bye, but then they don't get to host a home game,
yeah,
which kind of sucks. Like you said.
yeah,
So, programs right, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State teams are probably going to be among the top four for a while. We hope anyway.
yeah.
As uh, they're not going to see home games and play.
Right.
And
And all that
Sanford
act
Stadium
on.
deserves a home playoff game. The
Right.
Horseshoe deserves a home playoff game.
Yeah, that would just be epic I mean, it's just epic.
Yeah, just I would say, if it were me, I would say the 12 is, I'm kind of with you, and 8 might be good, or I'm
I
with
don't
two
know. I
schools.
just thought
Either
12. I thought 12 was too much, and they're already thinking about expanding it again. But
yeah, they've already
yeah,
talked to you, but if
I mean,
the only way that I'm
it's-
okay with any more expansion, if you just bite the bullet and say, all right, every conference champ gets an automatic qualifier in.
yeah,
And I know some people hate that because it means some years you're going to get like a 5 loss conference champion, or that the MAC champ
that's
has
fine.
no chance to beat anyone. I don't care. Let
Let
him
them
in.
in.
Either
Let them
that
play.
or do what I said, trim down FBS, or I guess,
Hmm.
do we even call it FBS anymore? Because it's
Yeah.
got a playoff now. So go back to just realign the divisions. Just cut
Yeah.
your top division back down to like we're at
Hmm.
130 some teams now. Cut it back down to like anywhere between 80 and 100 teams. I think that's a good number.
Hmm.
Have every conference champ get a bid, and get like 5 conferences, 6, I don't know, whatever you do. Either give every conference champ a bid, or just have an 18 playoff and just take the
Yep.
top best 8 teams, whatever. um
Yeah. So I
but
mean, it'd be interesting. But
yeah, so yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good for the sport. I think it's fun. It's more football. Who can complain about more
right,
football?
exactly. Now the crazy, it was crazy though. Think about this though. It could be now it could be unlikely,
Mhm.
but you look at some of the big rivalry games. Let's say Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Of course, classic rivalries. It's all the hatred.
Mhm.
Think about this though, and if everything were to go in some years, you could see those games played possibly 3 times in a season,
Mhm.
and that's just crazy,
It'll happen eventually, and the first time it does, it will be
mind
epic.
blowing.
And especially now with divisionless conferences, as every
Yeah,
conference has gone to
right.
divisions, done away with them, and then gone to
Now,
the
if you
odd
think it's
scheduling. Yeah.
now, if you think it's if you're on the you think you're on the hot seat now with Ohio State losing 3 in a row. Imagine if you lost your rival 3 times in the same year in the
Mm.
regular season and the championship game, and then somewhere in the playoffs. My goodness.
You wouldn't, that coach, whoever that would be, would not, after that last loss, they wouldn't even get back on the team bus.
Yeah, because you think Ryan Day's in a hot situation now.
Mm-mm.
Imagine if you lost those three times to
Mhm.
your rival.
Yeah, that's,
It could
ooh,
happen.
man, it could. And like we said, it probably one
Who
day
knows?
will.
Yeah.
Um, you see it in like European soccer all the time. The teams will play the rivals will play their league games against each other, and then they might meet up in a cup game, and then they might meet up
Hmm.
in a European game, and it's like, oh man, you know, it's 5 games against our arch rivals. It's crazy, but
Right.
it'll happen one day. But that should do it for our college football part of this week. I just wanted to cover those, get them out the way. Next week we'll come back with our
Mhm.
SEC and Alabama preview. We'll get more in depth on that because that's really what we cover the most. And then I think the week after that we'll do our prediction episode where we'll uh, make sure we write everything down and we'll
Hmm.
make predictions so you guys know who to bet
Okay.
against.
All right.
Um,
You
but
know,
let's
come
move
back and laugh
on.
at us.
The Olympics, as we talk, I think the closing ceremonies, wrapped up earlier.
Yeah.
Of course, I think the place we got to start is men's basketball. Just an unbelievable last two games for the guys. The big comeback against Serbia, down 17 at
Wow.
one point.
Yeah. Was
Um,
looking
and
iffy.
really, and it was looking rough. Yeah, there was, not about 6-7 minutes in the fourth quarter, and it looked like, man, it's just not going to happen because every time the
Yeah.
U.S. would make a little run, Serbia would they'd answer a big three with a big three of their own, or Joker would make a
Hmm.
play or somebody.
Yeah.
And then in the gold medal game against the home team, France, the arena going crazy, and it was a close one. France was not backing down. Wemby was playing
No.
solid. They had
Yeah.
what, 5 NBA players of their
I mean,
own.
they
This
got a
is
lot
not
of
a
that very talented French team.
and they were
Says them to.
shooting and they were not going away and they had a lead. They were trading blows and then just LeBron. It showed that he is still not, just the best player on the planet. Maybe not every
Mhm.
day, but when he wants to be,
Yeah, when he turns
uh,
up that notch,
hmm he
and
makes it
then
look
of course,
effortless.
yeah, I mean, he's 40 now.
hmm
I'm basically
And yeah,
40.
when he goes coast to coast, it still looks like it doesn't bother him at all. He made that play. Was that?
Effortless.
I think that was a Serbia game. He made a coast to
Yeah.
coast play where he got the rebound, got the ball, and
Hmm.
just drove, and then hit that left-handed finger roll,
Just
and it just made it look
effortless.
so easy. Yeah, and then of
And
course I think
then,
what you're about to say, Steph, um,
wow,
his
just
first
throwing a
shot
clinic.
at the Olympics, and yeah, he showed why he's LeBron is entered in all the GOAT discussions, and I've seen some people say, after this, it cements his status. And we've talked about that before. Look, it's a fun argument. It doesn't matter either way. Whatever side you're on, you're right. Um,
Yeah.
but Steph is probably, even though LeBron's a better overall player, Steph is a more influential player as much as he changed the way basketball is played now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody wants to just shoot a three. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
these kids coming
he's,
in basketball these
mhm.
days just want to jack it up as soon as they get past half court.
Well, yeah. And
Because
it's
they've
now,
seen Steph.
I forgot what I was listening to earlier, but they were talking about, um, I think it was an interview with Doc Rivers actually, and he was saying that it used to be the U.S. won because they had the best talent and they were more
Yeah.
athletic, but now they're winning because they have the best shooters, and that's because of Steph. Because everyone,
Hmm.
he's the best shooter of all time. There's
Right.
no
There's no
no
doubt
more
about
argument to
it.
that.
No,
And
no.
and you saw it firsthand. Those last few minutes when Steph took the game over,
Oh my goodness.
hit those big threes, and then that last three, double teamed. It, anybody else on the planet, I don't care if it's LeBron, I don't care if it's 1992 Michael Jordan, anybody else throws that shot up, you're like, what the hell are you doing? You're double teamed. He's off
He
balance.
just knew it was going in though. As soon as he shot
Yeah,
it.
he threw it. He throws it and he shoots it with that high arc too. It's like
Yeah.
touching the damn rafters, and then it
Right.
just nylon.
And you knew it was
Um,
money.
Yeah, you knew it. You just knew it. It you just, when he was shooting it toward the end of the game, you're like, all right, that's good. No need to worry about it. And then
Yeah.
he shoots that one, and it's just unbelievable. The
Yeah.
reaction from on social media, all the
Everybody.
players. My two
Everybody
favorite,
loved it.
uh, my two favorite things about this run for the guy, other than of course, just winning and playing some exciting games.
Yeah.
We've talked about how much international basketball has gotten so much better
Oh
over the
yeah, so
past
much
decade
better.
and some change. You know, it was France team. They're talented. But their best players at what, a 19-year-old kid, and they were
Yeah.
going blow for blow with
Yeah.
this. Not quite the dream team, but an
But
insanely
I mean,
talented.
it's a. I mean, you got like. S- I mean, three people that are gonna go down in basketball lore as three of the best of a decade, of an
Yeah,
era. I mean, KD, Steph, and LeBron. I mean.
Oh no, absolutely.
and
It's so I hope everyone appreciates getting to
what they
watch those
saw.
three at the
I
same
mean,
time.
right.
That's a
And that's
guy
the
who's in
thing.
the
We don't.
argument for the GOAT. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we say so much about with these comparisons, everybody's LeBron's better than KD or Steph's better than, and we always. But man, yeah, you gotta sit back and just appreciate what the. I mean, we watched. I mean, just the fact that we've seen all three of those guys at the peak of their career, and they've been great for so long now, and just to
Mhm.
see them, win championships. I mean, we've seen KD and Steph on the same team blow run through the NBA Finals, of course, and
Mhm.
we've seen this team win the the gold medal. I mean, Steph's first time able to be in the Olympics, and
Mhm.
some people are like, man, some people are like, man, is there a way that we can get those three together in the NBA for their final final run? As they come to the end of their careers, people would love to see that just because of the
Yeah.
story. But I don't
Everybody,
know
well,
if that
everybody
can
except
happen.
opposing
But
teams, but
yeah,
yeah. Well,
I
and
mean,
that's it's a great
I don't
that's
know if we can get it, but I
well, and
mean,
that's part of the
just
uniqueness and the great thing about international play.
yeah,
And for as there's a lot of people out there they're purists and they'd rather see amateurs or younger guys. But come on, like you said, we get to watch
you
LeBron,
got
like
to
we
watch
said, one of the
LeBron,
greatest, maybe the greatest of all time. You get Steph, best shooter
KD,
of all time, the most influential player of his era,
and
and
then
then
KD, one of the
KD,
best
who is
scorers of all time.
yeah, one of the top 10 best, maybe top 5 even best pure scorers in basketball history. And
And then the all-time leading scorer in Olympic history.
hmm
I mean, he's just
uh, but yeah, and he should get his flowers too for what
yeah,
because he took over the games, both Serbia and
right,
the France game at points, and
yeah,
it was the same thing. There's the big play in the Serbia game when You know, Carmelo's up. You can see him literally on floor side seats, literally telling he's coaching the team from
yeah,
as a fan, and he's telling everybody
right.
to get out the way and he literally, you can watch him yelling at KD to just take it yourself. And
Take
what does
over.
KD do?
Yeah,
Yeah, he weighs. I love that. Joel Embiid comes over to set the pick, and KD's like, "Nah, get away.
I
I
got it.
got the matchup I want." Does his move, hits his little elbow
Yeah,
jumper that right inside the 3-point line.
there's always money. I
Yes.
mean, one of the most.
The Melo thing too, it was one of, who, by all accounts, Carmelo has, that's who KD passed as the all-time
Yeah,
top scorer for USA basketball. By all accounts, Carmelo, may be the greatest player in U.S. basketball history in
yeah,
terms of Olympic play. He's got what, 4
right.
gold medals himself.
Yeah,
Never got the NBA crown, but he's got that. And I love that was one of my
yeah.
favorite parts of these Olympics was Carmelo floor side,
Every
courtside
game.
every game, cheering them on,
Yeah.
having just as much
Basically, the
fun as the
assistant
players.
coach.
Yeah, like I said, he was coaching from the opposite sideline. That's all it
Right.
was. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, go look up that y'all find that shot from the
And
Serbia game.
that was another thing that really got Braun going after the
Hmm.
dude from Serbia did the Melo thing when he tapped his
Oh yeah,
head, and then
hmm
Braun was like, what are you doing, bro?" And then Braun went crazy after that.
yeah, yeah. People are yeah, that's LeBron's boy. They came in together. Like
Yeah,
he looked
like
at
they're
him like,
best friends.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
he
oh,
went
you gonna
crazy.
do that?
Now, I will say one of the most underrated things for me, though, that doesn't get as much hype, just because, but that when it was looking bleakest against Serbia right before Steph went crazy with his shots, and B kept us in the game quietly. He
He
had
did.
7 straight points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
he
a big
scoring.
block.
Yeah. So I mean, for as much slack, as much people going on Embiid and not being a good enough defender, and the consistency not always there. I mean, he had some key moments in that Serbia game before the guys took it to the next level. But
Yeah, and then some props to Devin Booker. He was out there in
yeah,
crunch time, and he played great. He had a
some big
couple big
moments.
shots. Drew
Yeah,
Holiday was a crucial defender.
yeah.
I think the reason we really didn't see him that much in that gold medal game is just France's guards aren't that good. He just wasn't needed.
No, he wasn't
Uh,
needed.
but and then yeah, you mentioned Embiid, and then obviously the big three. Anthony Davis, he deserves some props. He
Yeah,
really played his role well.
yeah.
Didn't need the ball, didn't need a shot, so he was grabbing. I think against France, he had something like 7 offensive boards alone. That's
Right.
huge
Yeah,
in
yeah.
international ball like that. But Yeah, it was just exciting, great to watch. I was going to say my other favorite thing beside watching Melo was Tyrese Halliburton. Uh, I don't know if you saw that his tweet,
Yeah,
but
when
it's
he
a picture of him on the plane with the gold
hilarious.
medal, and he says, "When you ain't do nothing in the group project, but still get an A."
It's a good A. Yeah, it's hilarious. Took it well. I mean,
Yeah,
the young guy there, didn't play much at all, as we know, but took
well,
it
it's
well.
tough.
I mean,
Yeah, because you get these
yeah,
guys, and you're not building, a roster where you get your couple stars, and then you get your role
yeah.
players,
I
and you
mean,
get your
this is
bench
your
guys and
greatest.
rotation guys.
This is the
Every
best
one
of
of
the
the yeah,
best of the best.
exactly. Every one of these guys is the best player on their team, except for, maybe AD, and that's just because he plays a LeBron.
Right.
Anywhere else in the league, he'd be, maybe the best player.
And then
Um,
you have other people that aren't even there that arguably could have been there. I mean,
yeah,
I
exactly. No
mean,
Jalen Brown on this team, and
I
then we
mean,
got,
Kyrie
we
he could have very well been on this team. I
exactly.
mean,
You get weird stuff like what's his Jason Tatum. His shot
yeah,
just wasn't working, so he was effectively benched, and
right.
you got
He
these
didn't
guys,
play
and
much. Yeah,
yeah, and because of it, but he's already said it's like, no, it's not going to affect my decision for 2028. And
right.
that's true because by then, you got to
But then, I
imagine that
mean,
you're not going to see LeBron or
LeBron's probably
KD or
dead.
Steph. Yeah,
Right. So, I
maybe
mean, that's
Steph, but even
I mean,
then,
it changes. Uh, and I
um,
mean, who knows? I mean, that's
yeah,
4 years. I mean, it's a
yeah,
lot
it could
changes
be,
in 4 years.
yeah, but that could be Tatum's team by then. But
Right.
so yeah, it was just great. And then on the women's side, they also played France in the title game, and it was a close one, and they pulled it
Wow.
out.
Yeah.
Aja Wilson, big game. Um, France actually hit a buzzer beater, but the
Yeah,
girl's
but
foot was on the
well
line.
over the line.
It was well over. Yeah, it was no,
When he ran
but it went in,
crushing
and
it.
for a split second, you're like,
You was
oh,
like,
okay,
what the
shit,
fuck?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you look at her feet. I mean, she's well over. It's like she almost
Hmm.
she didn't realize where she was at, or didn't think they were down three. I don't know, but I mean, you wouldn't even.
Yeah, it was just one of those that maybe just unfortunate. Yeah, didn't have the
Yeah,
quite or awareness, or hopefully that's all it was just a misstep. And
yeah,
you hate to see when those people do that, and then they look up and go, "Oh no, like we weren't." It's like when
right.
a quarterback throws it away on fourth down, you're like,
Hmm.
"Oh," and then you see that look on their face, like, "Oh shit,
Yeah,
shouldn't have
exactly.
done that." But so great for them. Gold for the U.S. women's soccer team too. Surprising
That
one
was
too. They were
huge.
really weren't supposed to do it, but new
No,
coach, and they really
a
performed.
lot of close games. A
A lot of
lot of
close
close
games, but a
games.
lot of clutch goals.
Yeah,
We just want to talk
Rodman
about the
had the
men's
clutch
team.
goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dennis Rodman's daughter.
had the
Soccer
big
star,
big goal.
and an absolutely great goal too. Great strike, found the
Against
corner, just
Japan.
a beautiful
Oh,
goal. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and then let's see who else I want to give props to. The women's 4x400 meter relay team and
Was
track.
that the most dominant thing ever? Like it wasn't
It
even close.
they had to go to such a wide screen just to see second place.
Yeah,
And then my wife pointed something out too. She's like, it looks like these girls are jogging in the park, and then you see the second place. I believe is a girl from Ireland. She is picking them up, putting them down, running hard, just muscles, shaking. You could
yeah.
just see the look on her face, and then it flashes back to the U.S. girl who's like 100 meters ahead of her,
Right.
and she's just.
It
It's like,
was the
yeah,
most
Gabby
dominating
Thomas is
thing I've
just
ever
la la.
seen on
Yeah,
the
it
most
was
dominant thing
amazing.
you've ever seen on
Uh
in a
huh.
relay
Yeah.
like that. Like just
Yeah, I don't.
complete
Yeah,
dominance.
I can't think of a more dominant
No.
Olympic performance outside of maybe like
Yeah.
the original Dream Team when they were just beating
Yeah.
everybody by 40, 50
Right.
points. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean that was just crazy. It's like what? Like what? And, you keep on thinking, just please don't fall. As long as you don't fall, we're good.
And did you notice during one of the switches, the runner almost ran out of bounds? We were
Yeah.
on the inside lane, and
Yeah.
she like had to do a little hop, and even then she was
Hmm.
off balance, had to hop, and then still it was such a lead that it was like, you're fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Overall, it's another dominant Olympics for the
Yeah.
Americans. 126 total medals, first place.
T- tied
China,
in China for
Chi-
what 40 golds was it?
yeah, China was second place in overall medals in '91, but tied with 40 gold. So, but then the U.S. blew them away in silver and
Yeah.
bronzes.
The thing,
Great
with
Britain was
China
third
is the
just
thing.
for uh,
They
65
win
medals. Yeah.
so many things that we're not even. I don't even know if we really. do you know?
Yeah,
I
there's one
mean,
guy.
do we? I mean, we do the sports, but I mean, there's China's so dominant, like
Mm,
diving and
I
stuff that
mean,
I'm
ours.
like,
Yeah, ours.
do we even do that for
Yeah, it's
real? Like,
it's weird. I don't think we have. I think we've had historically some good divers, but our
yeah,
in that part, our strength is in swimming.
yeah, no,
We
yeah. I mean,
had.
our stuff.
I was. I think we
Kate
did our.
Ledecky had a hell of a Olympics
Oh
again.
yeah, I mean, obviously one of the most decorated Olympians of all time.
Yeah.
Um, and then was it or did our women's 3x3 3-on-3 basketball team, did they win the gold or did they
No,
lose?
they won the bronze.
Bronze, that was it. They won the bronze.
Yeah, they won the bronze.
Um, that was interesting. I will say the one thing I liked it. I will say the one thing, the selection of the guys was weird, especially for the men's team.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of wish that I'd almost that's where you'd like to see your guys that maybe just missed out on the Olympic team, the big team,
Yeah, that's what
And
I
it's
would.
different, I think, because you need guys that can go for the whole time because you only get what? It's a 4-person roster, so you only get one
Yeah.
sub, and then it's a sprint. It's either the first to 21 or whoever's
Yeah.
leading by it's a 10-minute game, right?
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying if you had Kyrie, I mean if you had Kyrie, Jalen Williams, and
Jalen Brown, maybe.
I'm sorry, yeah, Jalen Brown and Trey Young. I mean, does anybody beat that team?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
Or you throw in one, who's like maybe a mobile big man, or
I mean if you,
granted, he's not healthy. I'll say this: this is actually a guy. This is something I hope for 28 for the main team. Please let Zion be healthy. I'd love to see him in the Olympics on the world stage.
that'd be I think yeah, that'd be
If
great.
anybody can recreate the Vince Carter dunk over the Frenchman,
Oh,
it's
that's
Zion can do something
yeah.
similar, or he can
I
just
will say
body some.
that French guy tried. I mean, he definitely dunked on
Woo!
LeBron. He bombed on LeBron.
He he did. LeBron hopped in there trying to take that charge, and he didn't get there in
It's
time. And
like,
it was a nice.
yeah,
Hey, good for that dude. Good for that French dude.
yeah,
He's got a poster. I hope he
yeah.
gets
He's
that.
got a
I
post.
hope there's a photographer that got a great
That's
shot of
a.
that. I hope he
I'm sure
frames it in
there
his
is.
house.
That's a lifetime memory.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, silver medal is nothing to spit at. That's
No,
hey,
not at all.
there's a very yeah. I don't got a silver medal,
Right.
but that is yeah. You frame that silver medal and you put it on
Yeah.
that picture of you dunking on LeBron because
Yeah.
you can
So
tell your kids
that's a
that like,
story.
hey,
That's a
your
story
daddy
for
didn't beat
life.
him, but I dunked on
But I
LeBron.
dunked on LeBron.
My
See
nuts were on his chin.
it.
But yeah, just another great Summer Olympics for the U.S.
It was. I
And
mean, of course, the gymnastics was amazing.
yeah,
The
our girl
bounce
Simone
back.
Biles did her
Man,
thing and salty about it, some drama.
yeah, yeah, with their own former U.S. team members.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
it's good
worst
for
part
her.
about it. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
now one grievance I do have was with they rescored the Olympics
Oh,
over
what's
with
her name? Jordan
Gabby.
Childs. Yes.
Yeah, Jordan Child's supposed to get back to bronze. I'd be a F you.
And it's like a unique from everything I've read on the situation, it's something that they don't usually do. That the only times they've taken back medals is for people failing a drug test or some
Right.
scandal.
So this is a
So
judgment
yeah, this is a technicality, and you're come on, you kind of got to be like, hey, that's our bad, but it is what it is. It's almost like a
because
pro
it's like any
wrestling
other
thing.
sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a pro wrestling
Someone
thing. Hey,
gets hit in the
referee's
head.
decision is final. Sorry,
Yeah.
like
I mean, mistakes are made all the time on the college football, the NFL. I know it's a completely different
mhm.
sport, but hey, she has already won the bronze. Has already had the good part of being on the pedestal, for
Mhm.
the award ceremony. Experience that.
Mhm.
If I first, I'm pissed. If I'm her, I'm not. I'm pissed that you're coming, but for something that I've already gone home with. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, I'm like,
B, if I'm the
you can
girl,
come and get it.
yeah. B, if I'm the girl that now is the bronze medal winner, and I didn't get to experience the thing, because first she was the third place, and then they rescored it, or did Jordan took the bronze. So she was the original winner. Then she wasn't the winner, and now she's the winner again in the bronze. But now I don't even get to experience the ceremony and all that, everything that goes to be on that. Even if you don't win the gold, I mean, just being on that pedestal and experiencing
Mhm.
that, a once in a lifetime experience. And I'm a bronze medal winner now, but I mean, I missed my opportunity, the funness of winning the bronze and being on the pedestal and experiencing that live in
Mhm.
person. I mean, I don't want it at this point. It's like if you
Mhm.
won a high, if they had given, Vince the Heisman after Reggie
Yeah, like you
got
don't. Yeah,
suspended, once he had to give his Heisman back. I mean, you win now, but I mean, everything's already happened. Like, there's no, there's no joy in winning a medal after everything a week later. I mean, what's the point of that?
no, it's funny that same Doc Rivers interview I was listening to. He said, so for listeners, I don't know how familiar you are with the 1972 or Olympic basketball controversy, but
When they
basically
got through, yeah.
it was in Moscow, right?
Hmm.
And the U.S. won the game like twice, but the referees made some weird decisions, put time back on the
Yeah.
clock, and I don't even know who beat them. But the other team, put up a shot and won it. But those players, the U.S. players, have yet to collect their silver medals. Like every single one of the
Yeah.
U.S. players on that team refuses to collect the silver
Yeah.
medal because they were screwed. And yeah, it's the same thing for those people. You're like, this isn't like, so I think at the beginning of the Olympics, I forget I think figure skating, maybe team figure skating. The
Yeah.
U.S. team came and collected gold medals from the 2020 games because that was
Right.
when the Russian team was found to be doping and cheating. That's a
Yeah.
different thing because it's like we competed our asses off, we played our hearts out, whatever, and then all of a sudden you find out, wait, this team was cheating. These guys are,
Yeah.
that's one thing because then that's when you do come in, you're like, damn right, like give me that gold medal, like
Right.
I
I
earned
mean, it's
that.
different. Yeah,
It's
and they got a
different, but
little
yeah,
ceremony over.
it's a terrible situation. But kind of related, congrats to Shakari Richardson for medaling. Good for her after the
Yeah.
bullshit of the last Olympics. Not
Yeah,
getting to
that
go
was.
because of a
And
fucking
then,
weed charge. Yeah,
if she hadn't come out slow out that block, she would have won the 100 or
yeah,
silver. She
yeah.
got
She
the
would.
silver there. Came out slow out the block, but I mean, still, I mean, completely I mean, just took it to a different level. And when in that relay, man, she
Mm,
ran.
yeah.
She was that final leg, whew,
Uh huh.
on that 100, the 4 by
Mm,
100, and it was just
yeah.
epic. And the rain too, and she just
Yeah.
took it to a whole different level. And
Absolutely
just,
ridiculous.
yeah,
And it was a great Olympics overall. I got to watch a lot
I
of it.
enjoyed it.
Peacock was great.
Peacock did
Gold
that
Zone,
excellent. I mean,
yeah,
I
excellent.
mean,
It was the
that's it.
best sports presentation by a streaming platform I think I've seen
Oh
yet.
man,
They did
Peacock
golds.
definitely at least has the
Yeah,
Olympics figured out.
yeah, they did. And the Gold Zone, I want to say that absolutely great. They even brought in the dude from NFL Red Zone to help
Yeah,
with it. Absolutely great. It was, I pretty
phenomenal.
much that was my routine during this whole thing. Like kind of in the morning, just put on Peacock, and after the kid
Hmm.
watched his Bluey,
Yeah,
um, yeah, put on Peacock the Gold Zone, and
yeah,
just kind of that you're able to pay attention and like, oh, cool, here's the gold medal wrestling match. See some
yeah,
cool shit like that, or like the
yeah.
ping pong.
Ping
Um,
pong.
and the other thing I want to say is this is a very memeable Olympics. Just a lot of weird, quirky moments. It was fun.
Yeah.
We talked about the opening ceremony last week. Of course,
Hmm.
everybody's talking about that Australian break dancer. Yeah, they were just showing a video over on my TV too, man.
Oh, so funny.
It's
So
so funny.
funny.
Um,
Oh man. This the whitest thing ever.
it
Like,
was it was it was
so
it was
so funny.
painful and also just hilarious.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, so hilarious.
but
The
great.
men I would say the men's breakdancing was much more of what you expect from breakdancing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The
But
names are great too. Like one guy, what the gold medalist in the men's. I forget what his first name was, but his last name was Wizard, and
yeah.
it's funny to hear a guy like Mike Tirico say, like Joe Wizard, his
Yeah.
his official name is Joe, Smithwitz or
Yeah,
whatever like that. But his dancing name is Joe Wizard.
yeah, so funny.
It's like it's hilarious. But between that Turkish shooter guy out there with his T-shirt and
Oh, so great.
none of the fancy stuff. Just he got his gat and just all right, here we go.
Have
And
you
the
seen
only
that
thing,
picture where they put Steph in his outfit?
no, I haven't, but
Maybe
that's
one
great.
is like Steph with his mouthpiece hanging out,
Uh,
and then just a T-shirt with the gun.
oh man,
So funny.
pretty much, yeah. I would say the only thing that would have made that do better if he had a heater in his lips, just smoking a
Yeah.
fucking cigarette. Uh
Man, he was just so nonchalant with it. And
huh.
special stuff. Just everybody would do like he came out the crowd.
And then what was another one I enjoyed? Oh, the pole vaulting competition. I thought that Swedish dude who went to Ole Miss or
Hmm.
LSU. He went to LSU. The American guy that finished second went to Ole Miss, but he was just so good. He had it was crazy. It's one of those things I kind of have watched in the past that didn't really know the rules. So again, for if y'all aren't familiar, pole vaulting, or they'll set the bar and then everyone gets a go, and you can
Hmm.
have if you miss 3 times, then you're
You're
eliminated, and
out.
everyone moves
Yeah.
up. Well, the guy that gold medaled, he didn't miss a single jump the entire
Not even
time,
close.
and so he wins the gold, and then you're allowed, if the gold medalist, you can tell the judges like, hey, I'd like to go for the Olympic world record, whatever. So then he
Yeah.
goes and breaks the Olympic record, which was his. And then, he goes, let me break the world record. And he actually finally misses one jump, but they're like, no, within the rules, you get three, you can miss
All
up to
right.
3 times. So he goes and then breaks the world record. So, um,
Epic.
his name's, I forgot to write it down, but Mondo or something like that. And his
Yeah,
nickname's
Mondo.
King
Yeah.
Mondo. So,
And he
um,
was on the national team with Shikari, men and women, so they were there at the
mm,
same time. So they were
okay.
dominant
Yeah.
track.
Yeah. So that was a fun thing, but I thought this was a really great Olympics overall. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
like I
very
said, the only
entertaining.
only disappointing part was for me was the U.S. men's team, and that there weren't bigger names in 3x3 basketball. Also,
Yeah,
can the announcers next time? Can we not? Every one of them kept saying 3x3 basketball, and it was so weird.
yeah,
And I know that's how you write it, but that's just call it 3-on-3 or call it three
yeah,
v three at least. But 3-on-3,
yeah.
that's any
3 on 3.
basketball court in the world. If
Knows
you
it.
go to it, you want to say you don't say you want to play some 3x3.
All
No,
right.
that sounds like
3
some
on 3.
protein
Yeah,
shake or something. Yeah, you want to go 3-on-3, y'all, 3 sides, something. But
yeah.
and then of course I'd love to see baseball and softball back in the Olympics.
Yeah, they're coming back, I think, in 28.
Oh, they are. That's right. I think yeah, in L.A. So, but that's it. Next summer games are here in the states in Los Angeles in
That's
28.
epic. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
I would, hopefully in 4 years, have tried to save a little money because
Mm-hmm.
it's just that just to even be at any event would be really cool. Last
It
time
would be, yeah,
was
to get to see something.
'96. Was the last time I was in the U.S. was in Atlanta. Of course, just
Mm-hmm.
watch on TV, but yeah, just to experience that, take the kids. Even if, no matter what event you're going to, it'd be super awesome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And
it's
then
yeah. I think
I've always
I
wondered
need to win
what
the
people.
lottery because not
Yeah,
only that, but then we got the World Cup in a couple of years too.
yeah,
And got to get yeah.
we got a lot going on. I've always wondered though, do you have like with tickets? Do you buy individual tickets for every event you go to, or how
Oh,
does
that
that work?
I have no
I've never
idea.
even.
I do know that. So in Birmingham here last summer? We hosted the World Games,
Yeah.
and I honestly can't remember if that was last or 2 summers ago now. But and I do, my wife actually went to a couple of one of our neighbors, and I think you can buy, depending on where it is. So, like, I think you buy like sessions basically. So, if you're at the stadium where the track and field is, and you can buy a ticket for a session, so you can see, and when they run the track, that was a cool thing about Gold Zone too, is they're showing you all these
Hmm.
different events. The javelin throw, the pole vault, a 4x400, and they're all going on at the same time. They basically like might what am I saying? They might pause real quick to let one,
Hmm.
person go, like, if they're
Right.
throwing a javelin, they kind of make sure, like, hey, everybody, watch it.
Watch out.
But yeah. No, yeah, I'm with you. That'd be a cool thing to go to. And then
And
the
that
next,
would, but
the next,
my thing is just what picking you know what I'm saying? Like, how, yeah, that's what I wonder, how the tickets work. I mean, can I go to a track and field? If I go by today's track and field, I mean, can I get a pass for the whole day? You know, how does
yeah,
that work?
yeah,
Or, if I
yeah.
go
Is
look at
it
the
maybe like
swimming,
is
you
basketball
know,
like a March Madness thing where you just like, hey, there's 4 games today. You buy this ticket,
yeah,
you can watch all of them. Yeah,
you're
type
right.
thing.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
That's what I always kind of wondered. I guess, I never had that reason to, because but you know, 4 years, that'd be pretty cool to at least get to something out
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, and then of course the next Olympics period, or the Winter Olympics in 2026, they'll
Hmm.
be in Milan, Italy. Um,
Hmm.
so that'll be, of course we do pretty decent there too, but different games.
Yeah, different game. We're not as dominant.
Not as dominant, yeah.
um,
But yeah, so that's anything else in the Olympics you want to cover?
overall, I mean, it's just enjoyable. Just seeing so many stuff you would never watch any other time. It's pretty cool. You know, um, and probably the most patriotic a lot of us are
Yeah.
is
Well,
every 4 years when
yeah,
just with how things are in the U.S.
yeah.
I mean, it's probably the only time that a lot of people come together, no matter what, and
Mhm.
proud when the U.S. team does well. So it's kind of cool to
Yeah.
see that. But it's one of those things. Sports always kind of unifying for a lot of different people that
Yeah,
never
it
come
definitely is
together anything else.
for most sensible people. There's
Yeah,
still some
yeah,
people out there that and if you're one of these idiots that proclaims yourself a patriot, but you're rooting against American athletes for whatever
yeah,
dumb reason you have, you're an
yeah.
idiot.
They're too
Um,
liberal, or
yeah.
yeah,
Also, shout out to the she Algerian boxer who all that
yes.
bullshit, that
Oh,
commentary. Good for
so
her winning gold
ridiculous.
medal,
Yeah.
knocking out.
That was so ridiculous because I mean, obviously, I mean the fact that because not the number one thing is she's from Algeria.
Hmm.
That's in itself will let you know there's not any trans people that
It's
are
literally against the
representing the
law
country.
there. Like they're not
Right.
going to let her.
She
Yeah,
would not even likely. First of all, the likelihood of her being alive probably not
yeah,
that great.
exactly, exactly.
B, she's not representing the country on the national stage.
Hmm.
And
See,
the fact that
she
you,
trained hard. She had the, she was around in the last Olympics and didn't win anything because she
no,
wasn't as skilled. She went,
and
she
guess
worked
what?
harder, she got better
And
at
and
her sport.
she's lost to 9 other women.
Exactly. And once you start looking at that Italian woman's record too, she has a history of kind of quitting fights mid fight, and a little bit, there's video
If
that came out
anything,
where
we
it looked like
should,
she faked an injury because she knew she
yeah,
was getting beat.
yeah. If anything, we would need to question like how bad is the Italian boxing that she's able to represent the
Hmm.
country.
And to her part, that she, she can, yeah, exactly right. Like, is that the best you got? And to
And
her
then she
credit,
played,
she came out and apologized afterwards for
yeah, but I
putting
mean,
that on.
obviously
But yeah,
she played
you got
right into it.
you got your ass knocked out, and you just need to accept
You
it.
played right into it, yeah.
Hmm.
And of course, of course, where we're at in the U.S., that was the ugliest part about it. We're so
Yeah, yeah,
divided on stuff like that.
so
I
dumb.
mean, the fact that they have to
Just.
show kid pictures and I see a little girl and
Hmm.
girl pictures. I mean, that's just sad that that's where we're at.
Yeah,
But
because she has an elevated testosterone rate, which is
and she
not
can't
really all that
control,
uncommon a thing. I mean,
right?
I think everybody knows at least one woman in their life that yeah, maybe a little bit hairier arms or whatever.
Not that they
And
can control.
yeah, exactly. It's science. It's
And the one
deal with
time
it.
that she failed the guy was in
Hmm.
Russia with
Yeah.
Russian after she beat a Russian, or
Hmm.
so it's Russia.
So
It's like
yeah,
what?
so like, maybe not the most. Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, let's start wrapping it up here.
yeah.
only other thing I had in my notes, Major League Baseball stretch run really heating up now.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's nothing too major yet. I'm about sick of the Braves now. Just more injuries, more playing
Yeah,
terrible. Uh, gave up 7 to the Rockies in the 8th inning today to lose.
yeah, I saw that.
Losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to. So it's,
Hmm.
ugh, I'm just, yeah. I told my friends today I almost wish they wouldn't make the playoffs so I don't have to care about them because I don't see that team beating anybody in the World Series. But yeah, it's is what it is. Uh, and then NFL preseason started.
Yeah,
We,
yeah.
we had the Hall of Fame game on the first last week, and then a lot
Everybody
of
had some
rookies
games this
making their
weekend.
first appearances. Yeah, a bunch of games.
Hmm.
I will say the only thing on the NFL front, as a Cowboys fan, how worried are you about the CD Lamb situation?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not good. It's not looking good. I don't.
Yeah, it's an odd thing to
Because we have so much going on with the whole Dak situation, with the CD Lamb
mhm.
situation. It's just not ideal. I mean, for this close to the season, and I don't know. And then the whole fact that Mike McCarthy, basically God, almost like an odd man out if things don't go right. It's just a tough.
Yeah.
I just don't like how this season
I will
how it's
say
looking so
though, a silver lining for that situation is that nobody hired Mike Vrabel, so
far.
maybe there's a world where a slow start happens and then y'all get Mike Vrabel because that is I'm still shocked that nobody hired
Nobody.
him because that man is a good. There is either some really bad shit about him that hasn't come to surface yet, or there's just a
People
lot
just.
of dumb executives in the NFL, and that's the one I lean toward. Uh,
I think there's a lot of dumb executives
yeah,
because I
that's the
mean
one
you
I
look
lean
at
toward.
it.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's a lot of people that think they're a lot smarter than what they are.
Mhm.
And they have all these analytic things and all this, and they try to check off the box. And sometimes you just got to play football. You get football guys to do football things. I think we get away from that a lot. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
you got to
Yeah.
look at it. I mean, talking about dumb stuff. I mean, you basically. I mean, we saw that last year with the whole Lamar Jackson situation. People colluding
Hmm.
said, "Oh, we're not going to take Lamar because his mom's his
Yeah. Then he goes
The
out and
Atlanta
puts up an
Falcons.
MVP
The Atlanta
season. Yeah.
Falcons said, "Absolutely not. We're not interested in Lamar Jackson." Oh, okay. How
Yeah, and
dumb
then
is
they
that?
and then they go out and sign Kirk Cousins to a huge deal, and then draft Michael Penix at 8.
Who had a hell of a
Which
first game there? We'll
he
say that Mike.
did.
Mike has for I mean first game in the league. I mean, he put up he probably the highlight of week one as far as I didn't watch much because I don't take too much stock in the in the preseason. But
No,
I
yeah.
mean, I guess if there's anything to look at week one, I mean, he definitely put up a crazy performance. I mean, stat wise was decent. And of course, I know my Cowboys did lose today. Crazy, we lost to what's the name? Threw 4 interceptions today.
Move. Oh,
Well, I can't
Trey,
think of the Georgia.
uh,
No,
not
we
Trey
played the
Lance, not your.
Rams. No, Trey Lance had an okay game.
Uh,
He
oh,
threw for
you're talking about the Rams quarterback. What's his face? Stetson.
yeah, he had 4 interceptions and they still
Oh,
won the game.
oh man, yeah.
At
That's
13-12.
preseason, man. Preseason is
Yeah,
a weird thing, man.
I guess he's
Um,
sober enough to be out there. So good for Stetson.
hey, keep
But
keep
yeah,
him away from
but
cars, and
yeah,
he's good.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought Trey Lance looked okay. I mean, and then that was still a weird situation there. I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
no one's moved away from Dak, and just the fact that I don't know you bring in a guy was just a lot of for supposed to be a franchise quarterback, and now he's a backup, so it's just weird.
Hmm.
But that whole situation with Trey Lance.
Yeah, but that should do it for us. You don't have anything else you want to touch on, do you?
No, I think we're good. We've gone on a while now.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good old classic long episode for us.
Hmm.
But all right. So with that said, what's been done up real good for you since last time we talked?
Done up. I mean, it's been a busy week. Daughter turned 16 on Friday.
Ooh.
School started.
Mm-hmm.
For my son on Thursday, 5th grade for him.
Mm.
So, man, it's been a busy week. A good week. How about you?
It's just kind of same thing, just general life. We were out at the reason we didn't record last week, and we're out of town for my wife's birthday. We went down to Destin for a
Oh, cool.
weekend. Brought the kid. He had a ball.
Hmm.
The kid loves water, man. Just
No,
loves it. Bad
nice.
time, swimming.
Mhm.
He does swim lessons. We obviously didn't let him. Didn't let him in the golf there, but
Ocean.
we
Yeah,
had him by the sand when the waves were breaking, and he thought that's the funniest damn thing in the world.
that's very cool.
Every time one came rushing up, so he had a ball.
Yeah,
We saw a friend of ours who lives down there, so that's always good. And then,
yeah.
like I said, it hasn't been unbearably hot this week. We spent a lot of this evening and today outside, and it wasn't too bad. So, uh, can't complain about that. Like I said, if it's August in Alabama and you're able to be outside for more than 5 minutes,
It's a hell of
that's
a
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
you done well.
But
Yeah.
yeah. As always, y'all, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and rate us on whatever platform you listen to us on. Be sure to spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell your rich friends about us. Check out the alabamatake.com. We got some writings there. I was thinking I might even throw up a little maybe Premier League preview this week if I get
Nice.
time. Because that starts earlier and earlier every year, I swear. Of course, the Alabama Take family of podcast. All of them doing great things. We had some big events coming up for wrestling. Had some with SummerSlam, Roman Reigns
Oh yeah,
returning.
SummerSlam. Yeah.
Was a
It
good
was a
one.
pretty epic pay-per-view. Every title changed hands with Cody.
Yeah, it's a solid one, and some big things happening.
Oh
Dirty
yeah.
Dom turning on Mommy, and
Oh, I mean
Roman coming
it was
back.
kind of obvious that was going to happen, but for that
Yeah,
to
yeah,
happen
yeah,
how it did, and then the whole situation of all the
yeah.
original members of of their little crew are now out of it. Of course, Mommy and Damian
Yeah,
Priest together, but that'll
yeah.
be interesting how that all plays
Yeah,
out.
some
You
good
know,
stuff going on there. But yeah, check out all those podcasts. Like I said, check out the alabamatake.com. Don't forget, you can find our store link to TeePublic. It's in our, I post it every week with the episode. You can get
nice.
yourself some Alabama Take, some
Some
Taking on
swag.
Sports swag. Yeah.
Yes,
And
sir.
then, keep it done up real good yourselves out there, folks. Like I said,
Sure.
next week we will go full tilt college football preview. We'll do the
Whew.
SEC and Alabama. We'll dive deep into them. If I remember right from looking at our analytics, I think last year's episode, that was our most listened to, downloaded episode ever.
Nice.
It was our SEC
I'm
Alabama one. So we know
trying to
our
break that.
audience.
Yeah,
We
we
know
know
what
the
you want.
audience.
Yeah.
Get bigger,
And then,
bigger,
like I
better
said,
than
the
ever.
week after that, we'll do our prediction episode. We'll run through. We'll probably do like some conference predictions, some playoff team predictions, Heisman, etc.
Nice.
Stuff like that. But like I said, thank you for listening. And as always, we'll be back next week. Greg, buddy, take it easy.
All right, buddy.